Top of the day, beautiful people. Let's start our conversation here. First, I want to welcome you back to the Trauma to Triumph workshop series. And today we're continuing our conversation with the series, Your Story Wasn't a Choice, but the meaning that you give it is. Your story wasn't a choice, but the meaning that you give it now is. And today's topic, the story that you've been living is not the one that you chose. As I said, I'm going to jump right in, and I want to start off with just here. I'm not encouraging or asking you to pretend the past didn't happen. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to reclaim the pen and rewrite what all of those experiences mean to you, because it's the story that you live by that becomes the life that you build. We oftentimes don't associate the things or the way that we see our past, the perspective in which we hold our past, the way we talk about our past normally, naturally projects into the life that we live, because your story holds energy, frequency, vibration. A version of you is held captive in each of those meaningful memories that we hold on to. The story that you live by becomes the life that you build. And rewriting your story is rewriting your identity. One of the things that I love about when we get to session 6 in the Trauma to Triumph healing method is that from session 6 on, there's a lot of identity work that is happening. And oftentimes that identity work can feel like you are in an identity crisis. And simply put, what's happening is the version of you that is operating your consciousness is being sometimes introduced or being exposed to the part of you that you have been rejecting, the part of you that you have been suppressing, the part of you that you had to abandon in order to survive. And that confrontation where this version of you, this part of you that you believe, this is who I am because those are your strengths, and this is the part of you that has been protecting you. That part of you is now having to face the part of you that you may have considered weak, the part of you that you may have abandoned because you were told that that part of you is not acceptable, is not liked, or is not loved. And that integration can feel like an identity crisis. And what I want to do with today's conversation is to not only give you context, give you tools, but to also give you some ease. Because when you reframe your story, you're not just feeling better about your past, but you're changing who you believe you had to be because of it. Do you see the connection? This personality or persona that we have operated in is the person that we had to be because we believed that that was safe. We believed that that would get us love. We believed that that would get us the things that we were seeking. And now we're having to face the part of us that we abandoned because that part of us wasn't safe. I like to call that persona. And I want to actually do some defining of the word persona, because I think oftentimes we only look at persona from the perspective of fake. But persona is also constructed. But I call this persona the survival version of you. And that's because that survival version of you, the persona, was built to protect you from the pain you didn't yet know how to face, or you didn't yet have the tools to process. So you had to develop a version of you that said, I don't know what's going on. I don't feel safe. So I need to put on another part of myself to keep me safe, to survive this environment. And let me be the first to tell you, because many times people will beat up on your persona because we think of it as just a fake part of you, which is also what leads to us feeling like we are in an identity crisis. Because once we start talking about the inner child and the authentic you, we automatically think if there is an authentic me, then there must be a fake version of me. And if I can paint this very beautiful, simple picture for you, the authentic you is every part of you being accepted and integrated at the table of decision, at the table of your life. That is the authentic you. The inauthentic you, or the fake you, is any version of you that feels like you have to reject any other part of you. The part of you that feels like this is what's acceptable. This is what's going to get me love. If I am only this part of myself, then I will get the things that I want to get. That is you being inauthentic because you're not embracing all of you. So there is no fake version of you. The fake version of you is you pretending like there aren't other parts of you that are just as worthy, just as loved, and just as worthy of being accepted. So this survival version of you did a damn good job because you're still here. I don't want us to give the persona that we had to operate in to survive the environment of our trauma. I don't want us to give that persona a bad rap. Because you're still here. But now that you're healing, the same persona is the one that's resisting the change. Do you all see that connection? Kimberly, happy healing to you. Jessica, happy healing to you. Brandon, love, happy healing to you. Do you all see that connection? The resistance is what feels like the conflict when you're at this point of your healing journey. Because this version of you that did this damn good job to get you to this point has been operating as if this is who I have to be. But now you're showing me the parts of me that I haven't been interacting with, that I haven't been embracing, that I haven't been accepting, and that can feel like the conflict. Because healing requires you to become, or better yet, healing requires you to welcome back the parts of you that were shut out. Healing requires you to welcome back the parts of you that you abandoned because you were told that part of you is not going to get love, acceptance. That part of you won't get validation. Healing requires you to open the door and welcome yourself back home. See, the problem, and I always explain this to people when we're talking about relationships, many of us are thirsty in seeking relationships because we feel like there is a void. And we think the relationship, the partner, the companionship will fill that void. But what I'm trying to get us all to understand is the void is literally the part of you that you have not integrated with and accepted at your table. The void that you're trying to fill with somebody else's presence is produced by you ignoring those parts of you that you need to embrace, accept, and love and nurture. And sometimes for the persona, that feels like losing control. Sometimes for the persona, or for you today, that feels like losing safety. Sometimes that feels like losing your comfort. It feels like stepping out of what is familiar, because for a long time you've been operating as if that part of you needs to be suppressed and abandoned because that part of you is not going to get you to your goals. But once you understand that what you are seeking externally is literally the absence of that part of you, that's the void. The void that you are trying to fill is the absence of your own embrace, your own acceptance, your own love. And then the beauty of all of this is when you learn to love yourself, you will also start attracting to you. Watch this. Not only will you start attracting to you people that will also love you, the part that we miss in that statement is it's not that people that the scammers, the liars, the cheaters, it's not that they won't come at you. Let me clarify this. The reason we put emphasis on you loving you and we tell you that that is how you're going to find genuine relationships by you loving you, the math is not that the moment that I start loving me, liars are not going to be attracted to me. It's not that the moment that I start loving me, cheaters are not going to be attracted to me. But the moment that I start loving me, I'm not operating out of the neediness that often blinds me from seeing the red flags of who these people are. Because when I'm operating out of my neediness, the need for myself, the need for the versions of me that I am dismissing, when I'm operating out of that neediness, believing that somebody else can fulfill that need, I'm like this. I'm blind. I'm blinded to everything other than what fulfills that need. But when I genuinely learn to love me, the liars and the cheaters may still be around. But because I am not thirsty, because I'm not operating out of neediness, I'm actually a lot more patient with my assessment of people. Because I'm not operating out of neediness, I'm actually a lot more reserved about observing this person. I'm actually a lot more conscious of the way that I show up. That's what we mean in the context of relationships, and loving yourself will attract to you the relationship that you desire. It doesn't mean that the other people are just going to poof disappear, but oftentimes the neediness born in your unhealed trauma smudges the lens of your discernment. So when you start to feel this conflict on your healing journey, you're not losing yourself. You're just remembering the parts of yourself that you left behind. Oftentimes, the feeling of the identity crisis is because you're seeing a part of you that you have been resisting, rejecting, and abandoning for all these years. And now you're like, watch this. Because you've told yourself that this is how I have to be for me to be loved, you look at this version of you like, who are you? Or better yet, the question that makes you feel like you're having an identity crisis is, who am I? When you have to look at the version of yourself that you have been rejecting because you had to put on this persona to get love, to get acceptance, to get validation, when you have to look at that version of yourself, and when you look in the mirror in the morning and you don't see the tough person that you've been pretending to be, but you see the softness that has been hidden, you ask yourself, who am I? Because you've identified with just being a tough person, because toughness is how you survived your pain. Now you're asking, who am I? Because you've identified with being the people pleaser, and there is a part of you that is rising up that is saying, I want to stand up for me. And it feels like you're at a point of crisis, asking yourself, who am I? The authentic you is every version of you, even the darkest parts of you. I often say to people, the scariest people are not the people that don't have darkness in them. The scariest people are the people who think they don't have darkness in them. Because when they're triggered, their darkness passes their consciousness and they're doing something horrible without any thought. Because to them, the part of them that's doing the horrible thing, they never recognized. Self-control is recognizing that there is a part of me that has the ability to do great harm in this world. Recognizing that that part of me exists, I am conscious of it. So when something happens that triggers that part of me, I assess. Because when that part of me arises, rather than that part just jumping out and being a triggered response, there is a pause, an assessment, and then a decision that serves my long-term best interest. Why? Because there is integration in healing. Even the darkest parts of you are not going to be abandoned. But if you integrate, there is a discussion that happens. And then sometimes, watch this, sometimes you assess the situation that is at hand and you realize those that you love there is danger afoot for those that you love. And those darker parts of you are necessary in those moments to protect those that you love. Let me give you all an example of this for those of you who just allowed that to go over your head. You've heard the stories of the mother that because her child was stuck in a situation or there was something that caused a threat to her child, she acted in a way that exceeded her natural strength, exceeded her natural ability. They call it the mama bear. I've never seen that side of her before. Yeah, we all have that ability. The person that is peaceful is not the one that lacks the ability to cause harm. The person that is peaceful is the one that is aware of their ability to cause harm and chooses not to. This resistance that we're talking about, it may feel like you're at a point of conflict, and maybe you feel like you need to reject one part of you. And this is where if there is an authentic me, then there must be an inauthentic me. And which part do I keep? The authentic you is every version of you integrated at the table of your life. That is the authentic you. The fake you is you pretending like you're not soft. The fake you is you pretending like you're not outspoken. The fake you is you pretending and trying to hide a part of yourself because you feel or you've been conditioned to believe that that part of you is not worthy. That's being fake. The authentic you is recognizing that even the tough you, even the angry you, even the quiet you, even the docile version of you, even the part of you that is foolish, even the part of you that is silly at times, even the part of you that loves to laugh at silly things, even the part of you that snorkels in that really weird way, even the part of you that likes to do those weird dances and you're ashamed to do them in public because you're like, oh, people are gonna laugh at me, and I'm so concerned with people's perception of me that I don't allow myself to just be. That is the authentic version of you. Just being. Being what, coach? Just being. I feel this way today. After I assess that feeling as information, what do I need to express from that information? I'm just going to allow myself to be. So that resistance that you feel is not a sense of rejection, it's misdirected protection. Because this version of you looks at this. Let me build on this, and then you'll see this example and analogy that I was building. Internal resistance that we feel. You know, the one that tells you, I'm being that person because I was weak. I don't want to go back to being that person because they took advantage of me. I don't want to go back to being that person because that person wasn't safe. That resistance that tells you, I don't want to feel that again. I don't want to feel that pain again. So I have to be this way because if I allow myself to be vulnerable, vulnerability equals pain. That resistance that says, don't become that version of you again. That resistance, it's not because that version of you was bad. It's because that version of you experienced something that your subconscious mind says we don't need to feel that again. But here's the problem. Gate, the fence that you built to protect yourself when there was a threat, is now the prison that you're stuck in. Because that threat is no longer there. We're sometimes afraid to embrace all of who we are because we are afraid that at some point, when I was soft, when I was kind, when I was loving, when I was unafraid, when I was brave, when I was bold, when I was outspoken, when I was expressive, when I was cool, when I was chill, when I was inquisitive, when I was quiet, when I was silent, whatever it is that you felt got rejected. Now you're afraid to embrace that part of you because you don't feel safe being that part of yourself. And your nervous system is still trying to make sure you don't feel that pain, you don't feel that vulnerability again. So it may feel like you're at a point of conflict. But that's just you afraid. The conflict is your resistance to embrace yourself and to integrate. What feels like resistance is actually your nervous system protecting the identity that helped you to survive. It's actually your nervous system protecting the version of you that was developed to keep you safe. But here's the thing. Survival is not your story anymore. The moment that I realized I had spent most of my life just simply surviving because of the story that I kept telling myself. That's when I realized that whenever we start to feel that resistance, whenever we start to feel that sense of conflict, whenever it starts to feel like you are at a point of, who am I? That just means you're at the threshold of your breakthrough. That just means you're seeing yourself again. That means you're seeing parts of you that you haven't seen for years. And that part of you doesn't look familiar. That part of you looks like a stranger. I get it. I get it. When you start to integrate your inner child, when you start to welcome back the parts of you that you shamed, that you silenced, that you ignored, it doesn't just feel emotional. It actually feel like it's existential. It feels like you're at this place of, there it is right there. It can sometimes feel like you're at a midlife crisis. Because you're not just healing the wounds, you're healing who you thought you had to become in order to survive. Now you're looking at the person that you've been for 10, 15, 20 years and living your life, and you're saying, who am I? Let's put it this way. You simply built a version of you to carry the pain. And now you're at a point where you no longer have to continue to carry that pain. If I could simplify this a little bit more, I often use the example that many of us are living by someone else's script. That we were handed someone else's idea of who we are. We were handed someone else's projection of who they were, or who they were afraid that we would make them. And now you can update your story. You can reassign what version of you gets to write whatever chapter when it's appropriate. Here's what I mean when we're at this place of conflict. For some of you that haven't been along for this conversation and you're wondering, like, what does it mean to abandon myself? Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What is that experience when I'm abandoning myself? Coach, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'll use a very common one. There are many of us that are afraid to be vulnerable. Okay? Park that for a second. Whatever experience we had that caused us that pain in our developmental years, we associated, in order for me to survive, I cannot be as vulnerable as I was when I felt that pain. So we develop a persona of toughness sometimes. Or we do the opposite. We develop a persona of somebody that's closed off. Either way, that persona was developed to protect this version of me. But what happens is, out of the need to protect this version of me, I am also abandoning this version of me. Because what's supposed to happen is what normally happens in our lives. We encounter some type of traumatic event, and we have people or a person there to help us to navigate and make sense of the event. So instead of being stuck in this place of, I need to be protected, I have to protect this part of myself, we actually continue to live because we don't feel as if though there is a threat to this version of me. But when we don't have people or person or the process or the wherewithal to process the experience, this part of us, however we were being when we encountered the trauma, we hide that part of ourselves because we're still holding on to the pain. And whomever or the personality that we develop is the personality that we feel will help us to be safe or to navigate or to survive the environment that caused us that pain. As you go on living your life, you become comfortable being the tough version or the tough facade, or you become comfortable being the introvert, the person that is protected because I just avoid conflict. I avoid people, and anytime that there is a challenge, I just give in. You become comfortable being that person. As you are being comfortable being that person, you are also abandoning whomever you were when you encountered your trauma. Now, here's why trauma in your formative years is so critical to your adult years. Because the version of you, whomever you were, in your developmental years was your most authentic self. Why? Because that was you uninterrupted by trauma. You were naturally developing your natural gifts, your natural talents, your natural desires, the things that you were naturally drawn to, the way that you were naturally pulled to behave. All of those things were just you living, being. And when trauma happens, you stop just being and you start surviving. And when you're focused on survival in your formative years, you're no longer just being, but you're building up guards and you're in this constant state of fight or flight. And then you develop your character, your persona around this idea, this sense of I need to protect myself. I need to move a certain way to get love, to get validation, which creates a life of you constantly doing this thing of trying to fit, of trying to receive, of trying to get, and you're not just being. But the persona is not the fake version of you. It's the fragmented version of you trying to do life without the whole story because you have decided that part of your story is not safe to be. The persona is the mask that forgot it was never supposed to be permanent. The persona forgets that it was developed to protect a part of you. I've gotten comfortable being the aggressive person because not only do I feel safe when I'm being aggressive, but I'm starting to get some results in the world. People move out of my way when I'm aggressive. So I now become comfortable being that. So when I see the soft side of myself, I shun that part of myself Not only because I believe deep down inside that that part of myself is not safe, but I've also now learned that this aggressive part of me gets things done in the world. Not realizing that this softer part of me is the part of me that carries my emotions. This softer part of me is the part of me that expresses my deepest and most natural thoughts and feelings. So if I am abandoning and shunning this part of me, I am also only showing up in the world fragmented. And then I'm always seeking the external thing because I continue to feel the void. I think the void is more affirmations, more this, more that, not realizing the void is the part of me that I keep shunning. And it does not matter how much external fulfillment I receive, I will always feel empty because the seat at the table of my life that's empty is not a seat that's reserved for more money. It's not the seat that's reserved for your husband or your wife. It's not the seat that's reserved for more accomplishments, more achievements, and more external validation. It is the seat that is reserved for the part of you that you will not embrace and accept. And until you embrace and accept every part of you, your table will always feel like something's missing. That's why you can find the good thing and still sabotage it because you think there was something wrong with it. Do you see that? Let me explain it. Mouse drop. Let me explain this to you all. When you don't recognize that this yearning, this need, this void is just you not at the table of your own life, what you end up doing is when you find good things in your life and you still feel that void, you try to find the reason for the void in the thing, in the person, because you thought they would fulfill the void. So when you have them or you have the thing and you still feel the void, you find the reason for the void in them. Who said it? Come on, Andrea. That's how self-sabotage is born. It's not a conscious, I'm going to self-sabotage myself. No. Self-sabotage is born out of, you're here. This seems to be going well, but I still feel a sense of emptiness. So now I got to find out, what is it about you that's wrong that's making me feel this emptiness? Yeah? So as I'm searching, I'm digging, not only am I creating discomfort and now I'm creating distance in the relationship, which is affecting you, but as I'm digging and I'm trying to figure out what is it about you? What is wrong with this that's still producing the void? If I don't put my finger on it, I just create it. You know what? I don't like the way they do such and such. Yup, that's a good enough reason. Get them up out of here. It's really because I haven't fully embraced me. And until I embrace me, nobody can fill that seat. Nobody can fill the seat that you are supposed to sit in your life. Nobody can love you the way that you are supposed to love you. No external validation will validate. Let me give you all an example of this. Your word is the final say. What say you? Your word is the final say over your life. What say you? Let me show you what I mean by that, and I'm going to give you a very practical, simple, crazy example that's going to bring it home for you. If I told you, you're filthy rich, I said it. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. If I told you, you're the smartest person I know, it means absolutely nothing. Nothing I can say to you means anything, and I'm going to go a step deeper here. Nothing I can say to you mean anything until you believe it. You have the final say over your life. What say you? What story are you telling? Because that is the life that you are building. What say you? Let's go a step further, and let me tell you why I'm telling you this. The narrative that they gave you, it only mattered because you believed it. The narrative that they gave you, it only has power because you've believed it and you've been retelling it over and over about yourself. Simply put, it's not the truth until you tell it. Whatever has been said about you is not the truth until you say it, because it is your acceptance of it and your statement of it that makes it your reality at that point. I'm talking about people's words over your life. I'm talking about people's projection in the way that they treated you. Here's an analogy that we've been offering that I think drives this point of defining your worth based on how people treat you. If you came to our store and you saw that every shelf in our store had water on it, and you try to buy water, buy it, you had the resources to purchase it, and we refuse to sell you water, does that mean that you don't deserve water? So just because they didn't love you doesn't mean you're not lovable. Just because they didn't love you enough does not mean that you're not good enough. Someone else's action and belief is not a definition of your value until you make it so. What story are you writing? Because you have the final say. What say you? Whoo. Kimberly says, whoever provided the curriculum of your thinking provides the curriculum of your life. Now, we can all accept when we were children, when we were younger, when we were in our young adult years, we didn't have the pen of authorship over our lives. We can accept that. But today you do. What say you? When you feel like you're in this state of, I don't know who I am, am I having an identity crisis, or am I meeting versions of myself that I've been hiding from? This visual just came to my mind. Imagine you're playing a game of hide and seek. And you've been playing this game of hide and seek your entire life. And finally, you're hiding in this little closet, and you're all secluded, and you feel like this is a great hiding spot. They're not gonna find me. And then all of a sudden you start to hear the door of the closet opening, and you're riddled with anticipation, like, oh my God, I think they found me. And as the door opens and you look up and you see that there's an image standing there on the outside of the closet, the face starts to come into view, and the light starts to reveal the face, and you look at the face of the person that has been finding or searching or chasing or trying to find you, and you realize that that face is your face. Imagine that. That's the resistance that many of us feel. You just saw the thing that you've been running from, the parts that you've been running from, the shame that you've been running from, the fear that you've been running from, and you realize that that is you. You can't outrun you. You can never be whole without all of you. You can meet the greatest person, and I mean, you'll know they genuinely love you. They know they'll genuinely love you. And you might even be in a fruitful relationship, but there will always... I have clients right now that are in loving marriages, and their spouse understands, I need to go get help for this thing because I know you love me and I love you, and we're not, with this thing, we're not going anywhere because we're locked in. But the way that this thing has been popping up in our lives, I'm going to go get some help for this thing, both men and women. Because the external validation will never replace you allowing every part of you to sit at the table of your life. Nothing outside of you will replace the wholeness that comes in that feeling. So when you all hear me say, I love myself like no one else can, that statement is so much deeper than just how many of us actually hear it. I love myself like no one else can is a foundational. What I'm doing is instilling in your subconscious mind the foundation that I can give to myself what no one else can. When you understand that, you stop searching for it outside you stop being so thirsty. I've been there before. I've made poor decisions out of the thirst that was born out of my trauma. I've made poor decisions out of the thirst of me thinking that someone else could sit in the seat that is only reserved for the part of me that I wasn't ready to embrace. Oftentimes, that's the part that carries our pain, because in order to survive, we had to act like we weren't in pain all the time. So we had to, the part of us that hold our pain, the wound, we tell that part, the world isn't very kind to this weaker part. That's how we see that part of ourselves. The world isn't very kind to this part because that's why we're hurt now. So let me push this part as far away as possible so I can survive. And then we go out throughout our lives trying to figure out, I just feel empty. I just feel like there's something missing. It doesn't matter how much I achieve. It doesn't matter who I'm with or what I'm doing. That's because there's a part of you that's missing from the table of your life. You don't have to live in the narrative that you were given. In fact, that narrative isn't true until you retell it. So when it starts to feel like you're at this point of conflict, that's the perfect time to start journaling. Why? Because oftentimes you start to a few of you have already said this, but this is going to make sense to you now. Yes or no, true or false, whenever you start to feel the internal conflict of your identity, it is often accompanied by a bunch of memories that you're flooded with that you didn't remember prior to this conflict of your identity. True or false, yes or no, whenever you've felt a conflict within you of who am I, or when you start to feel that internal conflict of your identity, it is often accompanied by a bunch of memories that you have not been recollecting up until that point. True or false, yes or no? Those are the memories that version of you have been holding on to, protecting you. That version of you has been holding on to those memories while you've gone on living your life free of the burden, at least so you think. Now watch the magic of why we do this work. This version of you that has been holding on to your wound is operating in your subconscious mind where your operating system resides. So even though in your conscious mind you may not recollect those memories are still influencing your unconscious thoughts, your unconscious behaviors, the way that you see yourself, your neediness. all of those parts of you are still being impacted. And for many of us, that's where this conflict of, I've done all the things that I can do. Maybe I just need to give up and accept that I'm never going to change. You know why you're so frustrated? Because you've been focusing on working on the adult version of you that has been feeling the pain. But it's your inner child that's carrying the wound. So before you give up on yourself, join us on this journey of inner child healing. Give the Trauma to Triumph method a shot. I can assure you, the perfect circle of healing works like this. If you, the adult, are willing to learn this process and go back and nurture this version of you that is held captive in this memory in the tower of your trauma, if you're willing to go back and nurture that wound and heal that wound, then the pain that has been produced by that wound in your life today will diminish. Let me give you all this analogy. It's like an athlete that at some point in their career, they had a major injury, but they did not realize how severe the injury was. So they went on playing and then later retired. And then later on in their life, they start to experience the residual impacts of that injury. So they finally go see a medical professional. And the medical professional says to them, hey, did you ever break that limb? And the athlete is like, no, I didn't break that limb. I had an injury some years ago when I was still playing, but I never broke it. And the medical professional says, the x-ray says differently. You definitely broke that limb. And not only did you break it, but because you didn't let it heal properly, in order for us to get rid of the residual pain that you're feeling in your life today, we got to go back and break it again so it can heal properly. And sometimes that's what integration feels like. I got to go back and rescue the version of me that has been holding on to that wound. And I got to heal that thing. I got to go back and face it so that it can heal properly. That process doesn't require you to be perfect. It doesn't require you to know everything. It just requires you to have the courage to say, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to lead from wholeness now. I'm ready to allow every version of me to sit at the table of my life because I'm no longer afraid of what people are going to think about me. I'm no longer afraid that if I'm authentically all of me, that I won't be embraced, that I won't receive validation, because I now understand that the only validation that I've ever needed I am enough. I am good enough. I am worthy. I am lovable. I'm amazing. I can write the story that I live by. The persona or the ego oftentimes gets a bad rap. But I want to clarify. You weren't wrong for surviving. But you're not wrong for evolving either. You're not wrong for integrating either. I often say this analogy about the Tarzan story, that Tarzan went and got lost in the jungle and was around these apes, and no one ever went looking for him, or if they did, they could never find him. I often play with that analogy and say that there was many search parties that went out to look for Tarzan, and they probably saw him a bunch of times. But by the time that they got to Tarzan, he had believed that he was one of the apes. He was cloaked in dirt and dust and acting like one of the apes. So when his tribe saw him, they didn't recognize him. We get so consumed with what and who we need to be to get outside validation that the people that will genuinely love us don't recognize us. We're so afraid that we won't be accepted if we're just authentically ourselves, that the people that would accept us, if we were authentically ourselves, aren't they, when they see us, they go, oh, that person, I don't, well, let me make space. You're pretending to be something you're not to be accepted, missing the reality that that is not authentic acceptance. The people that will accept you authentically don't recognize you because of your pretending. And if you're not pretending and you're just operating in the persona that you developed to survive, that's fine. But I want you to consider, how do you look when you see somebody that's operating in survival mode? Do you go, oh, I can't wait to attach my life to that person? How do you think when you see somebody that's operating in this fragmented state because they haven't fully accepted themselves? You ever been around somebody that caught themselves being a way that was outside of the way that they wanted to present themselves? You ever seen somebody slip up and get comfortable and then just tighten back up real quick? We all needed to survive whatever environment caused us our trauma. But now, we can evolve. Phil, happy healing to you. Welcome to the conversation. I often say that this space that we share, we're all drawn here. I don't believe that anybody just stumbles in here. And the people that TikTok just throws in here, or whatever app you're watching us from, the people that the apps just throw in here, they leave quickly. Kimberly Mings, awesome. Thank you for the love and the support. I have an amazing project that I am working on called the Mirror Practice. It is a life-changing meditation chanting practice that I discovered, and the founder of it, bless her heart, she's allowed me to take this powerful tool that she's created and to put it in a language. Obviously, I'm a communicator, right? But she's allowed me to take that tool and put it in a language that is easily digestible. So if you bought the Shadow Work Journal, the Mirror Practice has nothing to do with mirrors, by the way. When we get the information together, I'll tell you all where to go get it and where to dive in. But the Mirror Practice is ages beyond just where the Shadow Work Journal left off. The Mirror Practice is active. It is a chanting meditation practice that allows you to focus and operate within what she developed as the 90-day matrix. And these chants that she developed, doing these chants over a 90-day period, applying what it's just stay tuned, right? We're putting it together for you all, but it's so powerful. So it's the 90-day matrix. There is the making your calls, and then there's this chanting meditation practice to do over the 90-day period. Once we get this thing together and I bring it to you all will definitely see how powerful it is. And I can't wait, because what we're going to do, I'm actually going to practice this chanting meditation tool with you all. So after we do these workshop sessions, we're going to go straight into the chanting meditation practice, and we're going to do it every single day for 90 days. The only catch is I'm not going to get on here and teach it to you all. You're going to go get the information, and then you're going to come and join me here. But I'll tell you where to get it. I'm actually, like I said, she's allowed me to actually do some editing of the content so that it is digestible to this community, so that it is easy for you all to grasp and understand, so that you can grab it and jump on it. We're about a month away, but we're actually going to start. For those of you that are a part of my community, she and I have agreed that we're going to make the mirror practice available exclusively to this community so that you all can start doing it with me over the next 90 days. But I'm looking forward to that. Before we get out of here, a lot of these conversations that we have, I realize, is not just surface level conversations, but that's because we're not doing surface level work. And I hope that many of you know that by now, right? This is identity work. This is deeper than just, oh, I felt bad today, I'm gonna do some affirmations in the mirror to feel good. This is, at your core, who are you? It's that depth of work. And that's exactly what and why we developed the Trauma to Triumph Challenge. And that's exactly the foundation of this healing method. The goal of what I'm offering to you all in whatever level of coaching that you enroll in, you're going to learn how to reframe all of those experiences that have been plaguing your life. You're going to learn how to integrate, because integration does not happen without guidance. If you don't have the tools to do the safe space exercise, if you don't have the tools to do the nurturing of your inner child and understand how to communicate and connect with your inner child, a lot of these conversations are going to go over your head. But transformation doesn't happen by avoiding the parts of you that still feel tender. And that work is what we do. That work is what's inside of this Trauma to Triumph healing method. It is what's inside of the challenge that is named after the healing method, the workbook, and everything else that I'm doing. This is what the workbook looks like, and that's what this thing right here is. But here's what I want to leave you all with. And then I'm going to answer some questions for those of you that are watching this live. I'll just close out the stream for all of the other platforms that are watching us and that we're recording this for. This work that we're doing is really teaching you how to welcome back the version of you that are still waiting to be loved. We feel that yearning for love and we go outside to seek it. We feel that yearning for acceptance and we go outside to seek it. We feel that yearning for connection and we go outside to seek it. But what if the true secret is that yearning for love is the part of you that you have been dismissing? What if the true secret is that yearning for connection is that connection with the part of you that you have not accepted and embraced? What if that yearning can never be fulfilled externally until you integrate and start writing a different narrative? I call you to stop abandoning yourself. Stop living by the narrative that someone else projected onto you. And embrace every version of yourself and come home to you. I want to thank you all that have joined us on the different platforms. Thank you all for being a part of this conversation. Please do like and subscribe to us on whatever platform you're watching us on. And if you're on YouTube, please do turn on your notification bell so that you can get notified whenever we release new content. I do see we have, is that Avaya? Avaya, I see you over there on YouTube. Avaya says, hello, coach. I hope you are well. What you are speaking about, the fragmented me, becomes so exhausting after a while and leaves one very unhappy. The dopest part about that is if my unhappiness is a byproduct of me not embracing and accepting parts of me, then that means I am the sole owner of making the difference. And that's the power of accountability. Because when I recognize that all of these cycles in my life are a reflection of things inside of me that I am not aware of, then I recognize that in order to stop these cycles, I have the ability. I just got to put my finger on the pulse. What is it? And that's what this work is that we do through the Trauma to Triumph healing method, and that we've developed the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge, the Trauma to Triumph Self-Guided Workbook, as well as I implement the same principles in my 60-day one-on-one coaching program. So any one of those levels of engagement that you would like to join us on, you can tap in with us by simply going to the website happyhealing.com. That's HAPPYHEALIN. That's healing without a G. So to everybody joining us on YouTube, thank you. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode in the Trauma to Triumph workshop series. I love you all and happy healing.